Do you ever feel drained and exhausted after spending time with certain people in your life? It is time to learn how to deal with what I call energy vampires. Join me today as we dive into the world of toxic relationships. And I'm going to give you practical tips for protecting your energy and setting healthy boundaries with these individuals. So grab a cup of coffee, throw in those earbuds, and let's get ready so you can take back some control of your life with these people. Hi, I'm Jenna and I'm always rambling. Just ask my husband. I have a great family and a pretty cool life, but I'm a recovered alcoholic. That's hard to say, but my goal is to inspire and educate to help others hopefully find life beyond an addiction. I'm all things: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Getting healthy, momming, and politics. Get offended easily? You better stop listening. There is no point in wasting that Botox by stressing yourself out listening to a podcast. Welcome to Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Today's episode brought to you by products and services that I'm thoroughly addicted to. Are you looking for a healthy and flawless, beautiful tan that is customized just for you? Look no further than Professional Spray Tans by me. As a former tanning bed addict myself, I know the risks of traditional tanning methods all too well. That is why I have invested in a top-of-the-line solution that I have flown to Minnesota from Florida to give my clients the best possible results. Plus, with my ability to custom blend the perfect color for each client, you are sure to walk away with a natural-looking tan that is uniquely yours. So why not treat yourself to a little wellness boost? Book your spray tan with me today and get ready to radiate confidence. Say goodbye to harmful UV rays and hello to a safe, healthy, customized tan that will leave you feeling amazing, just in time for summer. Book your appointment now and let me show you why my spray tans are the talk of the town. Details in the show notes. Hey, welcome to today's episode. So excited, as always, to have you here. But truthfully, whenever you dedicate time to listening to one of the Ramblings of an Addict podcasts, I truly do appreciate it. People that have either sent me messages or I've run into people face to face and they've brought up how they've been listening. It honestly melts my heart because the biggest thing for me in life is that I'm the type of person, if I have an experience or I go through something, I'm all about, okay, what did I learn from that? And how can I help people that are, a half a step or a quarter step behind me? Hopefully to help them avoid that, mistake or extra work or whatever I went through, right? That's what life is fucking about. Why would I go through something and then let somebody else do the exact same thing if it didn't go super well for me? Why would any human want to see that happen, right? So, if you are somebody that's been listening and enjoying the tips, I truly do appreciate the feedback. So continue to share those tidbits with me. And in addition to that, make sure that you are sharing these episodes with other people. If you are finding benefit, please share it with others because let's spread that wealth around. All right. With that, we are going to dive right into today's episode. So when I jumped into that intro, I'm willing to bet when I was talking about, the energy vampires in your life or those toxic people, I guarantee someone in your life popped into your head. Maybe even more than one person, right? But somebody popped into your head that you're like, oh yeah, they're totally draining me. So today I definitely want to talk a little bit about the different types of toxic people that we can run into, or the different types of energy vampires, whatever you want to call them. But then also talking about, what can we do about it? Because, okay, great. Yeah, you told me all about them. I already know what I'm dealing with here, Jenna. What the hell do I do about it? But first and foremost is I want to just touch on why dealing with them and actually, not just being like, oh, that's so-and-so, that's how they are. Why we need to deal with it is actually so important. So first and foremost, we need to make sure we are dealing with these energy vampires that we're coming across, because it is protecting our own emotional well-being. Energy vampires can leave us feeling incredibly drained, exhausted, emotionally just depleted to a point where we're like, I've got nothing left in the tank because I just had to deal with that person. And if we deal with it in a healthy way, whether it's, setting up boundaries or, limiting time, I'll talk about different strategies, like I said, in a little bit here, but if we deal with it, we protect ourselves, we protect our own emotional well-being and maintain a more positive life, which is the ultimate goal, I think, for everyone, more positive in our lives. The next important reason is because we are improving our relationships then. Maybe you're dealing with someone that's incredibly toxic. They're draining the crap out of you. You sit down, have a conversation with them, or you set a boundary, and all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I wish I had done this before, because our relationship went from like a 2 to an 8, right? We can see drastic improvements in our relationships, and that's what life is about, positive relationships. I think we all saw that, right, during COVID, when a lot of our relationships got, limited or cut off. Life just kind of felt shitty. So if you're able to take some of those relationships that are more on the toxic side and switch them around, why the hell would you not? Another reason you want to work on these relationships is because it gives you more bandwidth and allows you to increase your productivity in life. If we are taking so much of our bandwidth to deal with these energy vampires and protecting the energy that we have regarding them, it's taking a lot of the fuel that we have in our tanks. And then we're not able to spend that on things that we want to be putting it for, right? If we are constantly dealing with a pain in the ass person, and then we set a boundary or we have that conversation and things start to improve, all of a sudden we're like, holy crap, I have so much more time and I have so much more energy that I can dedicate to the passions and the purposes that actually make me tick as a human. And finally, the last one. So I talked about a little bit with the mental health side of it, right? But truth be told, when we start to limit these energy vampires in our life or to improve those relationships, we're going to see physical health benefits also. Because when we are constantly stressed out by negative people in our lives, it truly does have an impact on our physical health. Our bodies are stressed out. We probably aren't sleeping the greatest because we're thinking about it. And if we reduce the stress in our lives, voila, our physical health will automatically see a boost. So now that I've talked a little bit about, okay, why the hell do I want to deal with this, right? Let's talk a little bit about, okay, what kind of energy vampires could be in our lives? And then we'll dive into, okay, what the hell do I do about that? All right. So some of the main types of energy vampires, I don't know, I've called them energy vampires for years, and I don't know why. It must have come from a counselor or something of that sort. I think more commonly nowadays, oh, that person's toxic. I honestly think that's become a buzzword to a point. Oh, yeah, they're toxic. And it's like, no, they just don't like you, right? But don't get me wrong. There's plenty of fucking toxic people out there. No question about that. I honestly think that in our society, we're going to be dealing with probably more than less in the near future, at least. So whether you call them, the buzzword toxic person, or if you're a nerd like me, an energy vampire, or whatever the hell you call them, right? But typically they're going to fall into one of several categories, or maybe even falling into multiple categories, the same person, right? There's some people in my life that I'm like, oh, they fit 90% of the category. Don't get me wrong. I've set some healthy boundaries with those people though. But some of the main categories of energy vampires that we come across in our lives are the drama queens or drama kings, whatever, right? Those people that they fucking overreact to everything. Everything is dramatic. Everything is a situation. It's like they literally are trying to make their lives a soap opera. And you're like, dude, enough. Okay, yeah, it was fun for a little bit. It was exciting for a little bit, but I'm fucking over it. Really? Everything doesn't need to be a big to-do. Because if you've ever had a person like this in your life, you're like, this is exhausting. I cannot make everything in my life a big deal. Because it's not. Right? We also have the gossip. I think we've all been that person probably at some point. I know I've been a gossip at some points in my life, and that's definitely a trait that I constantly work at because I do not want to be that individual. But I'm sure we've all had, or maybe have, gossipers in our lives. And again, kind of like the drama queen, a gossip can be fun. A gossip can be exciting. A gossip can be somebody that you're like, ooh, yeah, tell me the tea. That's what they call it now, right? That's what my daughter says sometimes. She'd probably kill me right now. Oh, Jenna, that's so 3 years ago. Don't say that. But I think especially these two first categories, like I said, they're exciting. But if you, number one, let it keep going, or two, don't have healthy boundaries with it, they are exhausting. And a gossip, so not only kind of like the drama queen, right? It just gets to a point where you're like, dude, I don't have any energy for this anymore. But at least for me as a human, if I have a gossip in my life, I'm like, holy shit. If they tell me all this juice about everybody else, what the fuck did they tell other people about me? That is honestly what goes through my head about these people all the time. Okay, yeah, they think they're really cool because they're filling me in on the drama, right? But what are they telling other people to get those people enticed to listen to them? Right? Okay, another type of energy vampire, the manipulator. They're really good at fucking lying. They can play the deceit game like no one else you know. They have the ability to use a variety of tactics, right? To get their way. Often, if they're an energy vampire on you, often at the expense of you, right? They get their fucking way, they tell their little lies, their fibs, whatever. And then you're sitting there like, how did that happen? They got their way, and now I actually got the shit end of the deal. And I, in the moment, thought that it was a good idea. That's exhausting, right? And even if it's not 100% just impacting you, like you didn't get the short stick, but you watch somebody else, that even is draining. Because you're like, if you have a good heart, right? If you're a person of Jesus, like you're sitting there and you're like, I feel bad for that other person. Like my heart goes out to them. They totally just got played. That is exhausting on you too. There's still, an energy vampire on you at that point because your heart is now dealing with that situation. Another type of energy vampire is the person that plays the victim. In our society, this is becoming rampant, insane rampant. The person that they have a negative outlook on life, And everyone is always out to get them. They always want the sympathy. They always want the attention. But it's so negative. So exhausting to deal with because you're like, dude, I watched you grab the matches, go sit in the corner, and you played with them, and you started a fucking fire. Nobody is to blame but you. But yet, everybody and their grandma is being blamed by this individual, even though you watched them do it. Talk about exhausting. Because try to tell that person sometimes, right? That, dude, you did that. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. It wasn't my fault. What? Yes, it was. And they, at least in my experiences usually, most of the time, they're also really good at then leaning into a manipulation tactic, right? So like I said, some people, you'll see that they slide between all of these. So another type of toxic individual, a complainer. And we've all been there. Oh, my lordy, I know I've been there. And I will be totally transparent that I think this is the one that, I slide into the most because I tell myself it's like, I have a realist personality. No, dude, you got a negative personality sometimes. I work really hard on it. But people that don't have that self-awareness and that they are the complainer, every situation, they're pulling the negatives. They never find the silver lining. Constantly complaining. And it makes it incredibly challenging to be around them because you're like, okay, for real, this dark cloud is not following you on its own. Like you are literally, you like have a fucking rope around this black cloud that you are dragging with you. And you are sitting there now in the black cloud with them if you don't set up healthy boundaries or talk about tactics with this bird. If you don't think about tactics, rather, of how to deal with this individual. And then the, last type of energy vampire that I wanted to talk about today is the controller. And again, and maybe you're like me. Maybe you're sitting there and you're like, holy shit, I'm a little bit of all of these. Okay, yeah, me too. I've definitely, I think, played every single one of these myself at some point. But if you're, number one, aware enough to see that, and number two, you can be like, okay, I know I've done it, but I really do work on it. Awesome. You're human, right? As I've said many times, no one was perfect but Jesus. But as long as we are, aware of the sins that we are doing and working on them, that is what matters. But diving into this last one a little bit. So the controller, the person that it's like they're playing a board game in life and they try to, play out every piece 100% their way. They try to control absolutely every little detail, which leaves you, if you're playing this game with them, leaves you very little space for your way. Good luck trying to be you, or good luck trying to get your way with this individual. And their constant need to control everything is exhausting you, probably exhausting them, and then quite often, they'll probably bitch about it, right? That's where that complainer side sometimes comes in on that toxic individual. I can't even lie. I think sometimes this is my daughter. Mommy, come play with me. And there's sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, I do not want to play with you because I know as soon as I sit down, I will do it wrong. And then I get scolded by a 3-year-old because little Miss Control Pants thinks that I have to play our little imaginary game exactly her way, right? Which I don't understand because she's 3. So we're working on this because I'm not going to create an energy vampire that's a controller. All right. So we've talked now a little bit about different categories. Are there more? I am sure. Like I said, I think we're honestly going to have more toxic individuals in the upcoming years than we have now. But that's why we're talking about it today. Let's talk about what the hell we do with it. How can we set up some tactics so that if we have people in our lives that are showing some of these not great qualities, but here's a caveat, but we love them or we really enjoy them for some reason, right? Whether it's a family member or a best friend, maybe just somebody that they've hit a rut in their life and they're just kind of stuck there, or, but this is somebody that you're like, they ain't going nowhere, sister, because they're with me, right? Family members are definitely going to fit this mold for most people. Close friends. We don't want them to go anywhere, but then how are we going to deal with them? Because it's exhausting you, right? That's why you're listening to this. They're literally a vampire taking your energy from you, sucking the life right out of you. So, first and foremost, the first thing you need to do is set boundaries with these people and stick to them, right? There's the magic. You can set all the fucking boundaries you want, but if you don't stick to them, good luck. I've been guilty of that, setting boundaries and then being like, shit, I didn't hold to it. Dang it. You need to let these people know what types of behaviors are acceptable and what aren't. And if you hold true to your boundaries and start to, when you do create some boundaries, hold to them, those people are going to be like, oh, she is not going to let me treat her like that anymore. They learn, right? Just like how we train dogs. We give them boundaries. Just like how children, they have boundaries. For me, and this is a tactic I learned from my counselor, probably a decade ago. And it's helped me, all right? So whenever I go to deal with a person and I'm like, okay, it's boundary setting time. Like, this person has crossed the line too many freaking times. I need to put a boundary down here because no way, shape, or form is this behavior going on. And there might be a situation that you're like, dude, it happened once and I'm setting a boundary. Because you know in your soul, like, nope, that's my line. You can never cross that again. Some of it's just something that you're like, okay, they've been doing this for so freaking long. I can't do it anymore. I am drained out, right? And then there's also boundaries that you can set, like, very upfront. Like, these are my boundaries. I do not tolerate anything past this. Don't even try it. Don't even attempt it once, okay? So this tactic does typically work best, obviously, if the individual has done something to you before, or you could also use like an example, like so-and-so, okay, so I'm going to explain actually the way I talk about it first, and then I'll give an example of, okay, what if this person never crossed that line? How can I still use this method? Okay, so first, the method. So when I'm setting a boundary with the person, I'm a writer. I like to write things out, and you can either give it to the person, email it to the person, text it to the person, however, or have it written down so you don't lose your train of thought, right? That's my method. That's how I like to do things, because otherwise I'll get scattered. And especially if you're trying to follow a formula like this, writing it down does help. But first and foremost, the first thing is, you think about, okay, what happened? And you need to write the facts. Like, a freaking video camera recorded the situation. You're documenting it for like a police report, okay? Write it out like a video camera took the recording. This is what happened. Facts only. No feelings. Facts. What was actually seen, heard, happened. Plain. The next thing is, okay, how'd that make you feel? That's where your feelings, your emotions, how it impacted you, what your heart felt, what went through your brain, right? Those personal factors. How that video recorded situation impacted you. And then the third step is, all right, what do I wish had happened? Okay, so I'm going to try to think of an example real fast on the fly here. So let's say you walked in the door and you're writing this down. Okay, so I walked in the front door. You're standing in the kitchen drinking my soda pop that I had just bought at the gas station for myself this morning. Facts, right? A video recording could have happened of that event. How'd that make me feel? Dude, I was pissed. I literally just bought that for myself. Try not to exaggerate and try not to say things like, this always happens, or you never let me, never, don't try to embellish it and make it over the top. Don't be a drama queen, right? Okay, so you made me pissed off. I was angry. I was upset. I was thirsty. And then what you wish had happened. I wish you'd gone and bought your own soda. I wish you had drank a water instead, right? That's a very generic, stupid example, but it follows that same format, okay? When you are when you are talking about what you wish had happened is where your boundaries can come into play, okay? So what I wish had happened is you would drink water or gone and purchased your own soda instead. So moving forward, I expect you will not drink my soda and you will go buy your own instead. And if not, I will put my own, or I will take money out of your wallet, or I will put, I will put my soda in the garage fridge instead, or however. But that's where your boundary can come into play. Make it as factual based as you can. Emotions, but not over the top. Tell them what you wish had happened, and then set that boundary. Okay? I'd said, what if you have a firm boundary and it really hasn't happened with this individual, but you want this boundary set? Okay? So for me, in my first marriage, it was an abusive marriage. I have a very firm boundary of my relationship moving forward will not be abusive, period, right? So I had that conversation with Mike very much in the beginning. A lot of people are probably like, why would you need to have that conversation? If you go through a life like that, you have that conversation because you want that boundary very black and white, right? Okay, hey, so I have, your video camcorder. I've been through a relationship that was abusive. I want, you can go very high level. You can make it as detailed as you want. So your video recording, I went through a relationship that was very abusive. How'd that make me feel? That made me feel like shit. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel cared for. What I wish had happened, I wish that I'd had a better relationship. Moving forward, setting your boundary, I will not accept any abuse in a relationship. Okay? Very black and white. But you can still utilize that method even if it hasn't happened with this individual. I just wanted to highlight that a little bit. All right, so setting your boundaries. That's definitely a step you can utilize with any freaking energy vampire you come across. Whether it's a victim or a complainer. Dude, when you were complaining about XYZ, it made me feel like blah, blah, blah. And I wish you had, said that you liked my salad instead of saying that the lettuce was wilty. You can talk about it with any type of person. All right, the next thing I wanted to talk about. Do not feed the situation. Do not feed the drama. So if this person is, their drama is on high right now. The drama queen is, drank an energy drink, or she drank her Starbucks latte too fast. Or maybe it's a complainer and their negativity is flying at you faster than fucking fastballs from the mound, right? If you feed into this, if you start asking questions, if you start oh yeah, I totally agree, even if you're trying to be sympathetic, or you're trying to be empathetic, or you're trying to be supportive, if you know this is a trait with this person that you're I fucking hate that they're like this, shut the hell up. Don't feed them. You are escalating it. You're feeding it so it keeps going, right? Just like when you feed something, it grows. It keeps continuing. The life keeps present. Stop. Shut your mouth and let it die off. Hopefully it suffocates itself out. If not, that's where boundaries can come into play. But definitely don't feed it. With this as well, Another thing that you can do, some people will even sit there and just be silent. Well, I didn't say anything. And I think this is where a lot of people can get in trouble with a gossip. So, for example, if somebody's talking about another girlfriend, you're sitting with your friend, she starts talking about another girlfriend, you don't say a damn thing, but then she's like, your girlfriend goes to your other friend and, oh yeah, me and Sarah were talking about that and we said that we don't like your new boyfriend. And you're like, wait a minute, what the hell? I didn't say anything. You said you didn't like her new boyfriend and what he did, and I didn't say anything. And Sarah's like, what the hell? And she's all mad at you. Right? That's how this stuff happens. Even if you necessarily didn't feed it, you didn't cut off the supply either. You kept it festering, kept going on its own. So a quote, or I guess a idea that one of my friends actually taught me a while back, because I've had my fair share of gossips in my life that I've had to learn how to maneuver with. And my girlfriend told me, so I like to always say, hey, if that person is not here to speak for themselves, let's not talk about them. Because I would want that same thing for me with you. So I love that, because for me, that's kind of like two birds, one stone. One, you're calming things, you're suffocating it out. Two, you're also kind of setting a boundary with this individual of, hey dude, I expect this same for me moving forward. So when you're with your other friends, don't be talking about me. I expect you not to gossip when I'm not there. So that's like a double whammy, right? So not only are you not feeding it, you're suffocating it, and you're setting a boundary all at the same time. So write that down if you didn't, right? So if that person isn't here to speak for themselves, let's not talk about them. I'd want that same thing for me. All right. Next one, staying positive. So boundary setting, not feeding the situation, trying to stay as positive in the situation as you can, keeping your mindset positive so that you're not letting them impact you. Sometimes this is really hard. Sometimes it's actually kind of fun. Like when somebody's just being a freaking downer and they're just complaining or they're bitching and they're gossiping and you're just like, I got my Pollyanna pants on today and I'm trying to be as positive as I possibly can. It's kind of fun because you can kind of, it's almost like a combat with the person a little bit. Not going to lie, sometimes it pisses them off. But at the end of the day, I don't really care. Because guess what? You're over there being negative Nancy or negative whatever, and I'm over here, and yeah, you may not love how I'm being right now, but I sure as hell am not climbing down into that rut with you. Right? Another idea is to remember, if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, why is this person always fucking like this? It's not about you, right? Do not take this personally. Typically, this is how that person is. Don't take that personally. If you've noticed they're like this with nobody else but you, don't take it personally still. Be like, shit, I taught them that. They think they can behave with this like me. Behave like this with me. But cut it off. Set some boundaries. End it. Still don't take it personally. You just have, it's a learned behavior now with this individual, and you're going to change it. All right. Our next one is practicing empathy. So much easier said than done. And that's coming from somebody who practices empathy on the regular for a job. But try to give this person some grace. If you are like, okay, they are straight up just a toxic person who doesn't give two shits about anybody but themselves, Jenna, like I am trying everything. Okay, at some point you need to cut the ties, right? But try to understand the root of what is going on. Why are they like this? What is really triggering this or causing this? And if you're trying to think with a more empathetic heart, trying to, WWJD essentially, your more positive response might actually impact them in a good way. All right. So my next one is making sure that you're surrounding yourself with as many positive people as possible. I'm not saying in that moment, I'm saying in general. Try to make sure as you are, charging through your life and yours deciding, because you get to decide. You get to decide who you put in your life. Make calculated decisions of, is this someone I want in my life? Or do I not like how I watch them interact with me, how I watch them interact with others? Just because they like you doesn't mean you need to keep them in your circle. So make sure you're surrounding yourself with as many positive, supportive, non-toxic type of individuals. And if you do have some individuals that are more on the energy vampire side of things, if the majority of the interactions you're having are positive, you're not going to be as drained when you have to deal with that one individual. So you have more energy for these different types of tactics and boundaries and things of that sort. All right. Next tip is staying focused on your goals. So knowing that in your head, keep in mind, okay, I have to deal with this person, but my shit is front and center. I need to make sure I don't give everything I got to said person because I know what I have to accomplish for myself. My priorities, my goals are still in front of mind, and I'm not going to let so-and-so distract me if they come at me with an energy vampire tactic today. You go in there with that mindset of, okay, I know I have to go deal with her or him. I don't give a shit what they do today because I know I have blank, blank, blank to do. And that will happen. So keep your goals front and center. Do not let them, derail you. Make sure as well that you are trying to be kind of mindful as you go into that situation. So if you know somebody's toxic, you're like, they fucking drain me every time I see them. Have like a minute with yourself before you go. Okay. Like, I remember, this was a counseling session almost 20 years ago. And this was when I was dealing with a shitty situation. And she was like, if you need to sit there and pretend like you're zipping yourself up in a pink and shimmery bubble and none of that shit can get at you in there. You're just in your pink shimmery bubble and you are doing your thing and you'll interact with it all briefly and you just keep moving forward with your pink shimmery bubble, right? Be very mindful about the situation, protecting your energy, kind of reflecting if there are already boundaries set previously. Reflect on your boundaries for a minute so that they're fresh in mind. And then kind of hand in hand with that is making sure you're practicing solid self-care. If somebody's really draining you, and this is, especially if this is a person you're dealing with a lot, maybe it's a significant other that hit a rut or something like that. If it's a person you're dealing with a lot, make sure you're taking care of yourself, getting your good sleep, trying to work on your stress. You're still eating well. You're exercising, because if you're taking care of you, you're going to be a lot stronger to deal with this person and to set up all of these different steps you need to do to deal with them in a positive way. And then the final piece is making sure that if it's at a point you're like, I can't do it anymore. I'm trying these little tactics. I don't know what to do. Talk to the professionals, right? I've talked about that today. There's a couple examples I threw in here that I'm like, oh, I got that from a counselor. Yeah, because I was dealing with people that I couldn't deal with on my own. And I went to the counselor, or my counselor, and was like, okay, I got to tell you about XYZ. We'll talk about it. She'd help me with it. And, I'd have strategies or sometimes just talking through it was helpful. But make sure if you are dealing with an energy vampire that is too freaking overwhelming, bring in a professional to help you. Whether it's a therapist, a counselor, a pastor, You can do it solo. If this individual is open to working on it together, by all means, if that's something you want to do, bring them in, do it, work on it together. But do not be afraid and don't feel overwhelmed or embarrassed by the fact that, shit, I cannot deal with this person by myself. Because people are hard. I'm hard to deal with. I know that. I don't even deny that. I tell my husband that. All right. So, number one, I hope that these tips and these different tricks that I have up my sleeve that I use with individuals are helpful. But I want you to remember, dealing with energy vampires, it's far from easy. But it is crucial for your own well-being. So, the main thing is you need to go out there and protect the fucking energy you do have. Protect it like it's the last piece of chocolate cake, right? Because, trust me, if you do, you are going to thank yourself for it later. Setting boundaries, surrounding yourself with positive people, honoring your own mindful moment, little tips and tricks like that so that you can, have that more peaceful and positive life that you 100% deserve. All right, so until next time, keep slaying those vampires. Start slaying those vampires if you haven't. And as always, as it says in the very end of the podcast, if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Remember, if you are battling an addiction, reach out for help and support. There are many resources available to assist in your journey towards recovery. Surround yourself with a supportive community and never give up on the path towards a healthier and happier life. I appreciate you taking the time to listen and joining me on this journey. As you heard, I'm always rambling. But seriously, thank you for your support and make sure to subscribe and follow my channel. I can't wait to share more with you on the next episode. Until then, keep on rambling. If you have found this podcast helpful and want to dive deeper into personal growth and self-improvement, be sure to head over to my website, jennadix.com. You'll find a wealth of resources there. There is a little less drugs, sex, and rock and roll these days, but whether you're interested in getting healthy, information on momming or parenting, or politics, jennadix.com has something for everyone. So, what are you waiting for? Head to jennadix.com today and start your journey towards personal growth and self-awareness. See you there.